Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shrikant, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all today's webinar hosted by Ethicas Insurance Broking. We have an exciting and insightful session lined up titled Unlocking Happiness The Inside Job. In today's fast paced world, we often find ourselves chasing happiness outside of us, but true happiness lies within. Through this webinar, we'll explore powerful concepts like how our perception shapes our happiness, the true cost of happiness, and what we are really paying, techniques to visualize and live our bliss, navigating both positive and negative emotions, and perhaps the most intriguing, the happiness paradox. We are fortunate to have with us Dr. Amisha, a former dentist turned image and soft skill trainer, and now a dedicated happiness and mindful coach. With over a decade of experience in personal development, she has helped many individuals transform their approach to happiness. Dr. Amisha believes that the power lies within you. And today, she will guide us through how to unlock that power of lasting happiness. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphones on mute during the session. Feel free to use the chat box for any questions or thoughts. We'll address them in the Q&A session towards the end. The session will run for about an hour, and we hope it leaves you with practical tools to enhance your happiness. So, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Amisha to take us on the journey to the discovering the happiness that lies within. Dr. Amisha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shrikant. A very good evening to each one of you here. So, before I start this session, I would love to hear when I say the word happiness, what does it mean to each one of you? If you can just type it on the chat box. So, like each one of us, I think, has a different perception of happiness. Somebody is writing it's an emotion, it's fulfillment, it's something feeling alive. Before we start this session, let me ask you one thing. Do you all agree that as humans, we all want to be happy? Yes. I think there is nobody on this planet who does not want to be happy. That's a basic requirement of each one of us. So today, what we're going to do in this session is we're going to bust a few myths about happiness, certain perceptions that have been surrounded around happiness, and what exactly is happiness all about. So let's start this session. But before we go into anything, let's see the statistics. This is the real world data. As you all know, you're all from the corporate world, and you'll understand that India is the largest growing economy in the world. But today, in spite of being the largest growing economy, look where India ranks on the Happiness World Index. We're 126, way below countries like Myanmar, Pakistan, Nepal, and imagine even Ukraine, a country that is today fighting war. And we're still way below that. Why? Why today, in spite of having all the money in the world, in spite of growing and having the money power to buy whatever we want, we are still not happy? And that is what exactly we're going to understand today. What is happening in India and why is India not able to achieve that happiness? So let's start with one of the concepts that we want to cover today. This is a food platter. Let's say I give this food platter to somebody who's extremely hungry. Could be a beggar, could be a prisoner who's not eaten for the last 10 days. How do you think the person is going to eat this food? You can keep writing on the chat box because it'll just make the session a little more interactive. So the person is definitely going to be eating it without, looking at the food. The idea is just to reach and finish the food, to make his stomach full. He's not going to worry about how it tastes. He's not going to worry about how it looks, right? Now, let's say the same food, if I was to give to some food critic who came to a restaurant. Now, if I'm to give this to a food critic, that critic is going to look at the platter first, look at all the colors on the platter, understand the texture, see how I've plated it, see whether the colors are going together. We'll also see, have I put the textures correctly? Have I put the plates in the correct place, the fruits in the correct way? And then is going to start eating the food. While eating the food, it's going to analyze the taste, the flavor, how it feels in the mouth, everything. So basically, the person who's a food critic is actually going to analyze this entire platter. and really not going to worry so much about filling his stomach. He's going to take all the time in the world to see how this platter feels and looks and all of that. Now, let's say the same platter I was to give to somebody whom I love. I've made it for them, maybe their birthday or an anniversary or some special occasion. And I'm giving this platter to that person. How do you think that person is going to eat? Or let's say somebody made this platter for you. How do you think you're going to look at this platter and eat everything on the platter? You're going to look at it, you're going to appreciate it, you're going to cherish it. First of all, whether you like it or not, you're going to tell the person, oh, thank you so much for making it. So there's going to be a lot of love and appreciation. Whether the taste is good or not is very secondary, right? So now what happened in all these three scenarios? The platter remains the same, but every single time the situation changed. And because the situation changed, the person changed. And because the person changed, the perception changes to the platter. The beggar who was hungry, the only idea was to fill his stomach. The food critic, the idea was just to analyze. And the person I love, I think is just going to appreciate. So in all the three cases, the platter was the same, but the perception differed. And that's exactly what we do when we talk about happiness. Happiness is nothing but a perception. Each one of us, like you all were typing on somebody said it's emotion, it's fulfillment. I'm sure each one of you have your own idea of what happiness is all about. So for each one of you, happiness is going to be different and it's a perception. What makes me happy may not make you happy. What makes you happy may not make somebody else happy. And that's why we say happiness is a basic nature to human beings. Each one of us is supposed to be happy by nature, and that's how God has made us. But because today our perceptions have changed, happiness is something we're not able to find in today's world. So now let's understand this little bit about how happiness has changed over the years. Let's say you're all going for a walk in the garden, and then you go and sit down on a bench in the park. Now, when you're sitting on the bench, you have one child who's very joyful, looking at the sky, very happy. And then there's another child sitting next to you who's crying, looking sad. Maybe he's a little lost also. As a human being, which child are we going to reach out to? We are definitely going to reach out to the child who's crying. Just to ask, are you okay? Is everything okay? Have you got lost? Or is somebody, you're finding somebody, did something happen? It's just basic nature of us to reach out to somebody who's very sad. Think about it. If you're happy all the time, do you think anybody comes and asks you why you're happy? But if you're sad, everybody will come and ask you, why are you sad? The same way, you are all in the corporate world. Let's say you have an assignment that you have to finish by tomorrow. The deadline is tomorrow. You've just got it today in the evening. Now you have a team of 4 people and you have to finish that assignment. You have to hand it over to somebody to finish it. You have 2 members in your team. One member who's very happy, always looking at positive, finding solutions. You know that he will crack this assignment if you give it to him. And there is another member who's always complaining, finding faults, finding ways to get away from things, always grumpy, not happy. Now tell me, whom are you going to give that assignment to? You need to finish it by tomorrow, 7 o'clock, so that 8 o'clock you can hand it over at work. Whom are you going to give that assignment to? You're definitely going to give it to somebody who's very happy, positive, and looking at life in a more larger way. Why? Simply because you know that even if it's tough, he's going to make sure that that assignment is done. Now, what happened in both these scenarios? In the first scenario, the child who was sad got the attention. In the second scenario, your teammate who was very positive and happy got a little bit of extra work to do. Maybe he wanted to go out in the night, but he couldn't go out, or he had some party to attend or some occasion to go to, but he couldn't because he got that extra work from you. Now tell me, if this is the case, why is anybody going to be happy? What is the basic trait of humans that we have? One, that we want attention as human beings. And secondly, we want less stress. So in both these scenarios, if you see, if you're not happy, you're getting the attention and you're getting less work. So why are you going to be happy? And that is what has happened to our subconscious mind. Because we realize that these are things that are not going to, if we become happy, we're not going to get attention, we're not going to get, people coming to us, asking us, we choose to stay unhappy. And that's why there is always a cost of happiness. The more happy you are, people don't want to look at you all the time. Maybe they want to be in your company. They may not give you a lot of, space. Again, so that may also not be good for you. So that's why over the period of time, our subconscious mind has got adapted to not being happy. It just wants to remain in that state of unhappiness for a very, very long time. That's one of the other concepts that I wanted to cover today, just saying that no matter how much we're striving for happiness, because our mind is told that this is a way, if you stay unhappy, you're going to get this or you're going to get attention. Our mind does not want us to seek happiness outside. Now let's do a little visualization. I don't know how many of y'all are there, but whoever is there, I want y'all to be with me for the next 5 minutes. And I want y'all to just close your eyes and visualize what I'm telling you. So I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think of the last time when you were happy. When was the last time you were happy? Think of the situation. Go into that space you were in. Maybe the people who surrounded you. Maybe it was some occasion, some birthday, some party, some event. Go into that and just stay there in that moment for some time. Now, once you're there in that situation, I want you to see the people around you who made you happy. Maybe it was some people, maybe it was an achievement, maybe it was something else. It could be anything that made you happy. Just visualize it. Now I want to slowly just hear the sounds that were there. When you were in that place, what were the sounds you were hearing? Were you hearing somebody talk? Were you hearing somebody say something? Were you hearing some other sounds? Maybe you were in nature, hearing some birds chirping, hearing the water. What are the sounds that you could hear? And once you hear the sounds, I want you to see what were the smell, if you could get any smell there. Let's say if you were in nature, maybe the smell of wet mud. If you were in some restaurant, maybe the smell of food. If you were at home, maybe the smell of some perfume, the other person was carrying. Any smell that you can smell right now. And now I want you to see if you could taste anything at that point. Maybe you could taste some food if there was food in that situation. Maybe you could taste some, your own saliva at that point because you were talking. What is it? If you could get this taste, what is it that you could taste? And just stay in that moment for another 1 minute. Now, if you can slowly just shake yourself a little bit and open your eyes and come back to the present where we are. I want you all to type on the chat box, what is it that you felt when you went into that scenario of the last time when you were happy? What were the emotions that came? Any emotions that came to your mind? Nobody's felt joyful, relaxed, light-hearted, pleasant. Okay. Anybody felt pride? Like, was it a proud moment for anybody where you got happy? Okay. Smile. I think that's the most easiest, expression to have when we are happy. Somebody says pride. Okay. So we all agree that these are generally the emotions we feel when we are happy. Okay. When I was with my baby. You feel joyful, you feel hopeful, you feel excited. There's sense of relaxation. Like somebody says, there's pride. There's some point of fulfillment that we have. Like I'm sure when Ashok says that I was with my baby, he's feeling fulfilled. There's some kind of satisfaction. There's some kind of love coming through. So tell me, all of us feel these emotions, and we all know that these emotions, what we call, are positive emotions, right? But let me show you these three people, and I want you to now just think, what is happening to these three people? What are the emotions that they are going through? just the emotions. I don't want you to think about what they are doing or what's happening. Just what are the emotions when I look at their face that they are going through. I think for me, yes, tired, I feel the pain. I think in the guy in the red vest, I feel their stress. Yes, they're challenged, they're struggling. So now, when you write all these emotions, I want you to think, do you really think if I look at these people, do they look happy? They don't look happy. I don't think any one of us feels that they look happy, right? Because we just went into our own happiness and felt what happiness was. So obviously, when I'm looking at them, they definitely don't look happy to me. But if I tell you, this is exactly what they are feeling. There's a sense of achievement, there's a sense of fulfillment. Don't go on the expressions, but they're also feeling very happy in spite of all the pain, the stress, the tiredness, and all of that they're going through. Would you all agree with me now that there is a sense? Imagine them completing that finish line. They are definitely going to feel very happy, right? Whether they come first, second, third, that's irrespective. But for an athlete to finish that finish line is the most important, right? So now when we know that, when we experienced happiness only with positive emotions. But now when we see these people, they're experiencing happiness with also negative emotions that we call. Now, let me give you a very, very good example, which I always tell everybody. I had normal delivery myself, so I always give this example to everybody. Imagine a mother going through labor. It's the most difficult pain that the lady goes through. I don't think anybody can match that pain. But the minute the child is delivered and the child is given to her, she forgets all the pain. And there's a sense of joy, a relief, a kind of satisfaction on her face. That all that pain has actually brought her happiness. So when I say that happiness has nothing to do with positive and negative emotions, and that is one of the biggest myths that today we're all suffering from. The more we keep talking about positive thinking, the more negative we become in life because the focus is so much on that area that we forget everything else in life. As humans, we have black, white, and the green between, and we cannot demarcate our lives into black and white. Similarly, we have all the emotions as humans. There are going to be times when we're going to be angry, we're going to be happy, we're going to be sad, we're going to maybe, also have jealousy, competition, all of that. It's a part of being humans. But the more we are going to disregard our negative emotions, the more and more they're going to keep coming back to us because we're not accepting those emotions as they are. And that's one of the biggest myths surrounding happiness today is positive thinking. We keep telling everybody, think positively, but there is a situation when they cannot think positively. How are we asking them to think positively? It's very difficult. So unless they address those negative emotions, it's very difficult for them to move forward. So happiness is not about all the time smiling or all the time being happy or all the time feeling, oh, I have everything set in my life. Happiness is also about going through the journey of life and enjoying every single thing that life throws at us. And that's one of the biggest myths surrounding happiness today. So let's understand where did this all begin from? When we talk about positive emotions, we talk about happiness related, like each one of us, when we went through that phase when we were happy, we all had positive emotions. Do you think this was really the case when we were kids? Have you seen a child? The child is crying at one moment, and the very next moment, the child is happy. And sometimes you're just looking at the child wondering, like, my God, she was just crying one moment back and she's okay now. What happened? But that is how human beings are supposed to be. We are supposed to just eradicate the moments and we are supposed to move on. But the problem is, as children, we've been told so many things. We're carrying so much of conditioning that as we become adults, we grow up with that kind of conditioning. We grow up with the fact to believe that positive emotions equates happiness. Okay, let me tell you a very simple example. I'm sure we have a lot of men on the screen also. As Indian men, how many of us were told, or how many of y'all were told, don't cry? It's a sign of weakness. most of the men, I'm sure, have been told, right? Don't cry or don't show your emotions. It's a sign of weakness. But is that really true? When we are doing this happiness, when I showed you the statistics actually earlier, I was reading a book and they said that, women go through more depression than men. There are more number of women who go through depression than men. But if you see the suicide rates are much higher in men than they are in women. Why? And that actually, when I was reading that book, it got me amazed. I was like, why would that be the case? Simply because men are not told to talk it out. Men are not told to show their emotions. And because they are told, be positive, be happy, you have to be strong, there's so much bottled within them that they don't realize when it starts becoming unhappiness from within. They keep striving. Unfortunately, most of the men are, providers of the family in India. So that's another burden that they carry. There's also a lot of other burden that goes on. There's family, there's, money, there's a lot of other issues that we have. So unless we understand the conditioning we come from, unless we're able to break that and say, okay, it's okay if I'm unhappy right now, or it's okay if I'm sad, but I'm going to feel that sadness and then come out of it and become happy. Let me address this emotion right now. So many times when children come complaining, like I have two children, and when they come talking about, this one did this, I'm like, it's okay, it'll become okay, just move on. But I'm not even listening to what is not okay to them. So unless we give that space for people to talk about what is not okay, it's very difficult to move towards what is being okay. So give yourself the time to sit with all those negative emotions, whatever it may be, and then try and move forward. So one of the biggest thing is that we carry this conditioning of positive emotions. And what happens when we don't feel all these positive emotions? When I don't feel happy, when I don't feel fulfilled, when I don't feel pride, or when I'm feeling like, oh, I didn't get that 1 mark in my exam, or I didn't do well, or I didn't get a promotion, or what happens to me? I'm going to find ways outside to start looking for happiness. And there are lots of ways outside to find happiness. I'm sure we all agree. Taking a holiday, meeting friends. We think, okay, I'm going to meet my friends. I'm just going to have a drink and I'm going to be happy. Going shopping. One of the biggest addictions for women, I think a stress buster where when I'm equally responsible for it, like when I'm very stressed, I feel, okay, let me just go buy something and I'll feel okay. But am I really feeling okay? For men buying a new car, or a lot of women today are into cars and they love buying new cars, shopping, money, right? All of us are doing jobs and all of us have our goals at the end of the year, right? We make goals in the beginning of the year and we see them at the end of the year. And one of the biggest goal is obviously money. And the minute we don't make money, it makes us sad. It doesn't make us happy because we feel, oh my God, my year didn't go good. But there could be 100 other good things in that year. But because my goal was I want to make that X amount and it doesn't happen, I start feeling very sad. And all of this is nothing but, how many of you all have actually, let me ask you, taken a holiday and then come back, gone back to work, and after 2 days or 3 days, again felt the fatigue and said, you know what, I need another holiday. I feel that sometimes. So I feel like I'll take a holiday because I'm going to get a break and because it's going to make me happy and rejuvenated and all of that. But the minute I come back after a week, I forget the holiday. And because I'm in the run, I just feel like, oh God, I need another holiday for now. I already feel burnt out. And all of this, why we feel is because this is simply nothing but happiness shopping. Because we're not looking within ourselves, we are going outside and finding ways that can keep us happy. We're looking at materialistic pleasures that can make us happy. We're looking at small things like, if I buy this, I'm going to be happy. Or if I find this in my life, it's going to make me happy. If I'm going to get that promotion in my life, it's going to make me happy. But does it really make us happy? The minute we get that, there's something else that we strive for. The minute we get that, there's something else we strive for. And unfortunately, in human beings, we have a lot of comparison. We always look at that one colleague who's, doing very well, got promotions, the boss likes him, boss's favorite. I'm sure we all have one of them in our offices. And we're always wondering, like, what is he doing right that I'm not doing right? What is happening? Why am I not there? Why am I not happy? And then even if you reach there, you will look at somebody ahead of you and again say the same thing. He's got this and but why am I not there? So that comparison actually does not let us stay happy. The same thing, for, women at home or women, with children today, it's the same thing. They're getting exams, they get their test scores. And today, because it's so competitive for them, the minute they get, let's say, and like I remember doing a session for one of the schools, and one of the child came up and told me, because I was telling them it's okay to be unique and it's okay to be the way they are, and they said, but I understand all of this, ma'am. If we get 9 on 10, it's okay, but my mom is not okay with it, or my dad is not okay with it. What do I do? And it really got me like smiling, and I said, yeah, maybe your parents need to understand to be okay with the uniqueness that you have. So, unfortunately, there's so much comparison. There is so much happening in our world around that we don't even understand how to be grateful for what we have. We don't understand that if this is what I have achieved in so much time, it's good. Let me at least, cherish this. Let me at least stay with this before I aim for something else. And that's the reason more and more we keep looking outside for happiness. And the minute we keep looking outside for happiness, it stays away from us. The more and more we are seeking for happiness outside, the more and more happiness is not coming to us. It's just like, the more and more we think positive, the more and more negative thoughts come to us. The more and more we're chasing some girl, the more and more she runs away from us. The more and more we're chasing money, the more and more money doesn't come to us. It's as simple as that. You have to change your mindset. You have to change your mindset about everything that you want to find in life. They always say have a positive mindset, don't have a limiting mindset, but positive mindset is not thinking only positive things are going to happen to me. How I think about money, how I think about happiness, how I think about finding peace is something that I need to change. My definitions for that have to change. If I'm going to say happiness is only going to come with all these positive emotions, trust me, we're never going to be happy, because there can never be anybody who will only have these positive emotions in life. Similarly, if you're going to say, if I'm going to get money, only then I'm going to be happy, or only this is going to make me happy, trust me, that's not going to happen. I'm sure we all have heard it. The more money you have, the more miserable, in a way, a lot of lives have become. Yes, we can buy everything, but that much more stress is there. Today, if you see, all the schools have counselors, they have mental health issues. India is today grappling with depression, with anxiety, not just in adults like us, but also today in children. And it's becoming really something that we need to address at a very, very young age. So, the more we're looking outside for happiness, the more happiness is actually running away from us. And it's becoming that much more difficult for us to find it in the right ways. So I'm just going to brief a little bit about the session, and I want you all to give me comments on which concept really stayed with you, because these are things that I think really stays with each one of us. Happiness is nothing but a perception. I always believe that, what makes me happy cannot make somebody else happy. And what makes the other person happy cannot make me happy. We also saw that the subconscious mind always wants us to stay unhappy, only because of the fact that, the more unhappy we stay, the more attention we get. How many of y'all have actually seen or have children who come home throwing tantrums? You know, they come from school, they'll throw a tantrum, and then you'll go ask them, oh, what happened? What happened in school? And they'll talk about, oh, the teacher got angry and, something. Same thing at work, right? We go to work, let's say you've had a bad day at work and you come back home with a very grumpy face. Whoever is at home with you, first thing is going to ask you, what happened? You didn't have a good day at work. Versus when you come home with a normal face, nobody's going to ask you anything. They just going to say, okay, you went to work, you've come back, so what? There's nothing new or different happened. So the idea being that because, the more unhappy we are, the more attention we get, we feel there is a cost of happiness. Our subconscious mind has got trained for it. And that's the reason our subconscious mind does not want us to be happy. Again, we also saw how positive and negative emotions both equate to happiness. We went into our own last situation when we were happy, we got all positive emotions, but then we also saw that negative emotions also make us happy. And hence, I always tell every client of mine, stop saying positive thinking. Just think with all your emotions, whether they are positive, negative, don't bracket them. Don't bracket the emotions because, you know, how many of you have actually felt a situation in your life when, at that moment you went through a very low, you really felt, like, oh my God, the world is ending and nothing is going right for me. But today, after maybe a couple of years or a couple of months, when you look back at the situation, you look back and you smile and say, but it actually taught me so much. Or it was for the good because, this happened. Maybe that didn't happen, but something else happened and happened for the better, right? I'm sure each one of you have had those situations. I've had many situations in my life like that where at that moment I feel like, oh my God, it's the worst thing that's happening to my life and I feel very unhappy. But today when I'm looking back at it, they were the most life teaching lessons for me. And today when I look back, I actually smile because I feel like if that didn't happen, it wouldn't have shaped me to what I am today. So I think each one of us has these situations. We feel that those are not happy situations. They are not making us happy at that moment, but they will always have something to teach us. And later they will always show you that, yes, there was a happy moment even in those sad moments. Again, because our subconscious mind has gone into positive emotions, we look for happiness outside and we go happiness shopping. Each one of us is guilty for this. Trust me. I have not found any one person except maybe the gurus and the monks who say that, okay, we don't look for happiness outside. Each one of us in some way finds happiness outside. It could be a close friend that I want to talk to. It could be, buying things, materialistic things. It could be just going for a holiday. It could just be, being on your own or just doing nothing or just finding something, running. A lot of people find ways to make themselves happy. And the last is paradox of happiness. The more today we are running behind the happiness, the more happiness is eluding us. Happiness is not coming to us by just saying, I'm going to find happiness, I'm going to find happiness. We have to change our mindset. We have to change the way we think about happiness, just so that it becomes a part of our lives. It just becomes what we are. Like I always say, there's no one formula that fits everybody for being happy. Every time my client asks me, so what is happiness? I said, you know what? There is no definition. There is no definition by anybody who can say in the right words, this is happiness. Because even for us over the period of time, what made me happy as a child today is not making me happy maybe as a teenager. And what made me happy as a teenager does not make me happy as an adult. So in our own journey of life also, there are a lot of ways happiness has changed. Today maybe because we're all working, money equates happiness or promotions equate happiness. For some people who are not in relations, relations equate happiness. For some people who want peace in their relations, peace equates happiness. So there is actually no formula for happiness. And at the end, I'm going to leave you with the fact that each one of us is on our journey of happiness. Like I said, there is no formula, there is no one, frame fits everybody. Happiness is nothing but a state of mind. If we tell ourselves that we are happy, we're always going to be happy. Even in the sad moments, like I said, you will find happiness, you will find something to be grateful about, and you will find a smile, even in that sad moment. But if we're going to only focus on those moments, we're never going to find that happiness. So go through your own journey of life, discover your own ways of finding happiness, dig a little bit deeper in you, understand your emotions, understand why you're feeling what you're feeling. And start, one of the best things I feel I tell everybody is start journaling your emotions. The minute you write situations down, when you look back at those situations, you actually have a smile on your face because you realize that it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be at that moment. So just be on your journey of happiness and enjoy every single moment because I honestly believe we need to live in this present moment. There is no tomorrow. We don't know what happens tomorrow. The only thing we have in our lives is today. And whether we want to be happy or not is only lying in our hands and nobody else. Don't give that power to anybody else because happiness is what you want to believe in and not what somebody else has to define for you. So thank you so much. I'm ending this session here and I'm open for Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Anisha. I'll just leave a feedback poll so that people can go with that. And meanwhile, we are open for the questions also. If you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box. So, thank you so much, Dr. Amisha, for such an inspiring and thought-provoking session. I think we can all agree that this was a truly eye-opening exploration into what happiness really means and how we can unlock it from within ourselves. So, to quickly recap, what we have learned that happiness is a matter of perception and that we have the power to change our lens. And we also learn how to evaluate the true cost of our happiness, the importance of visualizing and living our bliss, and perhaps the most importantly, that seeking happiness too eagerly might actually hold us back. I hope you all found today's session insightful and that you will take away some actionables to apply in your own lives. As Dr. Amisha beautifully put it, the power lies within you. Thank you for all being such a wonderful audience, and special thanks to Dr. Amisha again for sharing her wisdom with us today. So, if you have any further questions or feedback, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to assist you. We look forward to see you in future sessions and have a great day. And remember, happiness is indeed an inside job. Take care, everyone. And if you still have any questions, you can still drop in the chat box. We still have some time.
I think we have a question on the Q&A.
We have a question in the Q&A. So right now I'm in the lowest low situation. How much ever I am teaching myself to not think about it and be happy. Those thoughts are popping up and I'm getting more stressed and not sleeping. So, Dr. Amisha.
So what one I would definitely suggest is, writing down the situation you are in. When we pen down our thoughts, we actually write so much more than what's because sometimes our brains run too fast. Our thoughts run very fast. So when you write it down, you actually get it more structured. One, I think that's one of the first things I would tell you to start with. Once you write them down, just see the situation and see the pros and the cons of that situation. What is pulling you down in that situation? Write that down. Write the emotions you're feeling. Once you do all of that, you'll actually realize what is the bad of the situation and how you can come out of it. You can of course seek help outside. You can find people. You can reach out to anyone, but this is something you need to start from yourself. Write it down, write down the situation, write down the pros, the cons, and then see for yourself what are the emotions you're feeling. What is that one thing of the situation that is pulling you down so much? Because I think once we address our emotions, a lot of clarity comes in our thoughts, a lot of clarity.
So we also have another question that what books do you suggest to learn more about the new ways to redefine one's own happiness?
There are lots of books in the market. I just feel like today Google has everything about happiness. But I just feel that each one has a different way of finding happiness. So, find different books, find different ways that actually, you know, resonates with you, I feel. For me, a lot of different books resonate in different ways. So I just feel like you'll have to find your own way to see which book resonates with you.
So if you can suggest one book where like people who are starting to explore, so if you can suggest one, they can go with that. So
So
I
right now,
think
I'm actually, when I was telling you about this book on depression, I was reading this book on, ways to live actually by Matt Higgs. And it's a lovely book because it shows you how each one of us goes through a low, but then we find our way back up. And it shows how resilience is there in each one of us. So it's a very simple book. And it actually could be a little bit deep for people because it's about depression, but it actually shows us how each one of us is very resilient in our own way.
okay. There's a question in the chat box, I guess. Dr. Amisha, in your opinion, what's the most effective daily practice someone can adopt to increase their overall happiness?
So what I do is meditation because it connects you with yourself. I think even a 5-minute guided meditation in the morning really helps you connect with yourself. If meditation is not something you can do, because I know it's difficult for people to get, in that still position, box breathing. I'll just give you a very simple way to do box breathing. When you're under pressure, you start your day, you breathe into the count of four, you hold to the count of four, you breathe out to the count of four, and again hold to the count of four. It is such a powerful exercise. I mean, I teach it to children because it's something so easy for each one of us to do. So if you start this, a day with a box breathing, it actually centers you for the day, if not meditation. I think meditation, of course, is one of the best things to do, but box breathing is one of the simplest to start.
Okay, ma'am. And we have couple in question and answers. He asked, "Can you please explain the role of happiness in daily productivity?"
So let me tell you a simple thing. If I'm going to be stressed all the time, how can it not affect my productivity? I mean, I think it's a very self explanatory. If I'm not going to be happy, I'm not going to be able to. It's like if I don't fill my cup, how do I fill others? As a lot of this I teach the women, especially, we're so used to giving to everybody else that we don't fill our own cup. And sometimes you'll see women at 30 and 40 getting, burnt out. Simply, or, even today in jobs, we're getting burnt out within 2 years or 3 years, simply because we're not finding ways to fill our happiness. We're just running the rat race. We're just going through, waking up in the morning, going to work, finishing work, coming back, maybe going out somewhere back. But where is that self realization? Where is that self staying with self? Is very, very important to find happiness. And that's why I said, understanding your own emotions, the positive and the negative, can only happen when you spend some time with yourself. And unfortunately, today we spend time with everybody else but ourselves. So if we just can do that 10 minutes a day for ourselves in whatever makes you happy, like a lot of people now have started gymming because that makes them happy. And that really, really helps in productivity.
Okay, ma'am. And there's Rajkumar, and he says, "Hi, ma'am. This is Rajkumar. Your session was good. My question is, how can we improve our mindset to become happier?"
I think the same way, I always say you need to first accept both your emotions. That's why journaling, like I mentioned, even to, somebody who was, it's anonymous, but who said that, they were in a low situation. If you journal down your positive as well as your negative emotions, you will be able to understand, okay, in this situation, why am I feeling this? And then, okay, next time if this situation comes to me, how do I change the way I react or respond? A lot of times, because we are so not with ourselves, we often react rather than respond. I'm sure each one of us is guilty for it. Somebody says something, we get angry, we just lash out without thinking, okay, let me calm down. Maybe the other person is angry, but I can respond rather than react. So if you become aware of where you are, you'll be able to change that mindset also. But unless you are not aware, there is no change happening in mindset. So I always say the first step to anything is awareness. And that's why I truly believe the power lies within us. Because no matter what anybody can tell us, if I don't want to be aware of myself, I will not want to change my mindset or change the way I react or respond.
Yeah. And there's a question in chat box. They're saying, "I have two kids, age 12 and 17. How do you suggest I can work with them on this? Because I sure want them to be better prepared for the stress they're gonna see soon."
I think it's one of the most difficult age groups. I have a kid 13 and 17, and I exactly know how tough it is to work with them. The world is very competitive, very, they have no choice but to live in this competition. What I would suggest is, and that's something I'm working with teenagers very closely, is, making them more mindful about their day-to-day lives, equipping them with tools, like we say, the value system. If we can give them that at an early age, then I think we're making them a little more resilient. Things like acceptance, things like letting go of certain emotions, things of understanding where they're coming from, resilience. These are value systems which are not taught in school, unfortunately. And as parents, we can actually do it from home. So if we can teach them these, they will be able to face the world. We cannot take the stress away from them because unfortunately the world is very stressful, just like how we feel in our work environment, it is very stressful and we can't take that away. But we can definitely equip them with better tools so that they can deal with that stress.
Yeah, I think that's all. The questions are done, and if you have any other questions, we still have 10 more minutes. So if you want to post any questions, we are open for that.
So I
I
think one thing I
think,
would also like to add is, since everybody is in a working environment, and I think also to accept the other person with their emotions is very important, because sometimes, we get so engrossed in the way we feel, and we're not very inclusive with the other person's perception. Like, when we started the session, we said happiness is nothing but a perception. So if we can just understand that maybe what is making me happy is not making him happy, and see the other person coming from a different perspective, I think we'll become a little bit more inclusive as a community, and we'll become more happy even in our work environment.
yeah, ma'am. Did you see the question or you directly said this? Because there's a question in the Q&A. He asked exact question which you answered right away.
Oh,
He said, as you mentioned, that world is very competitive and stressful, with trust factors going down day by day. Don't you think taking out time, devoting some time to ensure other guys are happy,
yes.
would it help in a certain way?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I just saw it. But yes, it is
Yeah.
very, very important to also, that's why they always say charity or, reaching out, kindness. These are things which actually make you happy. Today more and more people, even who are working, are trying to work for NGOs or, doing some kind of a work giving back to the society. Nothing, nothing more. I mean, you're getting nothing out of it, but the whole pleasure of helping somebody and doing something, for someone. Actually, so I always say, when you're in a work environment, right? You have an employee coming in. Maybe he's had a bad day at home, and
Yes.
is taking out all that stress at work. Maybe is talking very rudely, or if you just understand that maybe okay, it's one of the days. Maybe it's a bad day at work. Let me just let me give him space and just let him be, rather than, oh, he's shouting at me, let me answer him back, or let me just, because we really don't know what each one is having, in their day. So I always say, like, I teach my kids that if you can just give a smile to everybody, and if you can just be kind, you don't have to be helpful and go out of your way to do something, but just be kind. If you can just do two things, very simple things, which all human beings can do very easily, you don't know whose day you're making. And that actually will eventually come back like karma and make you happy.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Anisha. And
Thank,
thank you, everyone, for attending. So I think we'll wind it up. Yeah.
thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.